I am super excited to get to talk to you guys about books today. So reading is hands down my favorite hobby, and it always has been. And this year I was able to read 200 books. It's a little insane, I know, but let me explain my case. So I read a combination of physical or Kindle books along with audiobooks as well. Adding in audiobooks has helped me to really increase the amount of books I'm able to read every year, since I can listen to them when I'm doing something mindless like dishes, laundry, running, etc. I definitely don't retain as much from an audiobook as I do from a physical book, since I'm a visual learner, but that's why a lot of the audiobooks I listen to are fiction, or they're nonfiction ones that I borrow from the library for free, so it's more cost effective that way instead of having to buy the book. I'm a little bit of a statistics nerd, so I went through my book list and broke it down into categories. So in 2022, I read 114 fiction books and 86 nonfiction books, meaning that 57% of the books I read were fiction and 43% were nonfiction. And of the books I read in 2022, 120 of them were audiobooks and 80 of them were physical or Kindle books, meaning 60% of everything I read was an audiobook and 40% of everything I read was either a physical book or a Kindle book. If you're interested in increasing your reading in 2023, I'll share some tips at the end of the video for you, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into my top 5 fiction and top 5 nonfiction books for this year. All right, so for my top 5 fiction books. So number 1 top fiction book this year is the Book of Lost Names. So this book should get 1,000,000 stars. It's a World War II historical fiction that has 2 timelines, one set in 2005 and one set in the 1940s. It's one of those stories that will stay with you long after you finish reading. I don't want to give too much away, but trust me, this one is worth your time. All right, number 2 is a book called 3 a.m. So this is actually a series of mystery books that follows the life of Henry Benz, who is a guy who has a condition where he's only awake for 1 hour a day between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. These books are hilarious and they're pretty short, so they move fairly quickly, but I would definitely recommend the whole series. Book number 3 is called The Last Bookshop in London. This book is another World War II historical fiction book that follows Grace Bennett, who ends up working for Primrose Hill, a dusty old bookshop in the heart of London during the war. It was a great story and I definitely recommend it. Book number 4 is Project Hail Mary. This is actually a sci-fi book that follows a guy named Ryland Grace, who is the sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission to save humanity. I'm normally not a sci-fi fan, but Andy is a great writer and this book was fascinating and it kept my attention the whole time. And 5th fiction book for the year is called The Tuscan Child. So this book is yet another World War II historical fiction book that follows Joanna Langley, who returns home after her father passes away in 1973. In an effort to understand the past better, she travels to Italy to discover what happened to him during the war, since he would never talk about it. It's an awesome book and it definitely keeps you guessing the whole time. Now for the top 5 nonfiction books of 2022. So number 1 would definitely be The Blessed Life. This is one of the best books of all time. It's written by Pastor Robert Morris, and he goes through and explains what the Bible has to say about tithing, giving, generosity, abundance, and stewardship. It is life-changing, but also super simple and super practical. Plus, there are tons of real-life stories that are sprinkled throughout that really helps to keep it interesting and applicable. Number 2 would be a book called Finish. Most self-help and motivational books are all about how to get started on your goals, but this one's all about how to follow through and finish them. John talks about how the sneakiest obstacle to meeting our goals is not laziness, but perfectionism. And his writing style is super entertaining, so it's an easy nonfiction book to read, and it has some really great ideas. Book number 3 is a book called 7, An Experimental Mutiny Against Excess. This book is the true story of how Jen Hatmaker, along with her family, took 7 months and focused on one area of excess during each of those months, to include food, clothes, spending, media, possessions, waste, and stress. It was super interesting and also really convicting and really made me want to take action. I'll probably use several of the components in this book to help me form some of my 2023 goals. Book number 4 is a book called You and Me Forever, Marriage in Light of Eternity. So this is the best marriage book I've ever read, and its premise was very simple. The way to have a great marriage is not by focusing on marriage, but by focusing on God and on eternity. I've read a ton of marriage books, and many of them say the same things over and over again. So this one was really refreshing and new, and I super enjoyed it. And the 5th book is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. This book was written by a pastor whose mentor told him that hurry is the great enemy of the spiritual life. And he told him to work to ruthlessly eliminate hurry from his life. So this book talks about how he took the steps to do that and why it's important that we do that as well. For anyone who feels overwhelmed by the busyness of life, this is a book for you. And I had to mention one honorable mention book. It's called I Hate Running and You Can Too. So I know I was only gonna share my top 5 nonfiction books, but this is another book I really enjoyed reading this year. It was oddly motivational and really entertaining, and it made me want to train and sign up for a 5K this year, which I just completed earlier this month. And it's been years since I've done that, so when a book moves you to take action like this did with me, I feel like it deserves a mention. So if you plan on making some kind of reading goal for 2023, make sure to tap into all the free and cheap resources available around you to help. One of my favorite resources is the Libby app. You may know that you can go to the library to check out physical books, but the Libby app is the library's digital resource center with thousands of audio and e-reader books available. And just like the library, it's totally free with a library card. We also like to take advantage of discount book sales at thrift stores and our local library's quarterly book sale. The knowledge you gain from reading is really endless, but it doesn't have to break the bank. And if you're someone that struggles to get interested in reading in general, let me share some grace with you. You don't have to read books that you aren't interested in. I've set aside plenty of books that I'd started over the years just because they were boring. Read what you want to read and read what's going to be most beneficial for you. If you struggle to find time to read, I've found that it's helpful to plan it out. So as a part of my morning routine, after I have done my Bible reading for the day, because I think the Bible is the most important book, I'll read a chapter or so from a few nonfiction books. I basically treat it like it's part of my work for that day because I know that the things I can learn from nonfiction books can prove really invaluable to me in my life and in my business. I love learning and I love growing, so I try and give reading priority because I want to be better. I try and reserve fiction books for the evening once I'm done working for the day or when I'm running, because running sucks and it helps make it more interesting. I'm someone who, if given the choice, will typically always choose to read a book in the evening over watching a TV show or a movie. So that's typically how I'm able to read more as well. Look, you don't have to read 200 books in 2023 to get something out of reading. In fact, I would not recommend it. Just start small. If you've never been much of a reader, just start by reading 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes. If you read 10 minutes a day, I think you'll be surprised by how many books you're able to get through in a year, and I think you might find that you'll start to look forward to that 10 minutes every day. I hope this video has been beneficial for you. If you have any book recommendations for 2023, or if you happen to read any of ours, let us know in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.